Hi everyone, my name is Gray. I'm the dietitian and health coach with MLK Health Center and Pharmacy. So normally for these cooking demos, I'm making something savory, a mealtime option, but for this cooking demo, I'm going to be switching it up and making a dessert instead. So I'm going to be making a chocolate avocado pie. So typically with desserts, they rely on things like white sugar, flour, typically some junky oils, and they just end up being tasty but very nutrient depleted. There's just not a lot of redeeming qualities there. So with this dessert, it's delicious, but we're packing it full of really nutrient dense ingredients. So we're using things like dates and maple syrup for sweetness. We're also using avocados and coconut cream for some of that just extra fat and texture. These are going to be healthier fats than something like a vegetable oil. And then for the avocado and the dates, these have a lot of fiber, which is really going to just bump up this recipe in terms of the nutritional value, because desserts are pretty notoriously something that don't have a lot of added fiber. So that's going to be an important characteristic too. Something else that's just an additional perk is that this recipe does not have any dairy or gluten in the mix. So if you have found that you're somebody who just doesn't tolerate gluten or dairy, then this could be a good dessert option for you. There is still sugar, so you can't go totally crazy and eat half the thing by yourself because it's, quote, healthy. The dietitian said so. We're still having this in moderation, but like I said before, it's just going to pack in way more nutrition, vitamins, minerals, all that good stuff, more so than you would see in a typical dessert. Let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is soak the dates. So you're going to need 1.5 cups total. A cup of that is going to be for the filling, and then about half a cup is going to be for the crust. If you have not used dates before, they're going to have either whole dates or pitted date options. So they look like this, and if you get the pitted kind, you can, peel that open. There's not going to be anything inside there. If you get the whole dates, there's going to be sort of a long seed in there that you're going to need to pull out. But as you can see, there's lots of just texture in there, I guess. Not texture, but structure. And that structure is going to deliver some of that fiber I was talking about earlier, as well as a lot of sweetness. This is nature's candy, really. So we want to get this in just warm water and let that sit for about half an hour. Next up is the avocados. So you're going to need roughly 2.5 cups of mashed avocados. So that's about 4 to 5 avocados. If you're not sure if it's ripe, you want it to give a little bit whenever you press it with your thumb, but you don't want it to be mushy. If you have an avocado that's still really firm, you can put it in a brown paper bag with a banana for maybe 24 to 36 hours, and that will help speed up that ripening process. So avocados are one of those foods that send a lot of people to the emergency room with cuts because they're a little tricky to get open and get the pit out. So a couple of tips here. One is that you don't want to hold it in your hand and then cut it. That can get dicey pretty fast. So you want to get it on a cutting board and make sure you have your hand in that sort of safe food holding position that we've talked about. And then you're just going to get through the skin there and just rotate it under your knife all the way around. And then from there, you can just twist and open that up. To get this pit out, a lot of times you see people just kind of swinging that knife in there to catch it and twist it out. That can get a little crazy too. So don't be a hero. Just get a spoon and work it out that way. Whoops. May have to get some of this goodie off of here. So a tiny bit of extra work, but that's going to keep your hands safe. And then from there, you can just take a spoon and scoop out all that good stuff. So we're going to repeat this with all of our avocados. We'll mash it with a spoon, and then that will be ready to go to add to our blender. So now it's time to make our crust. I've got about 1.5 cups of mixed nuts. I have pecan pieces and walnuts, and then about 1/2 cup of these soaked dates from a little earlier. Just carefully pour all of that into your food processor. If you have like a small NutriBullet blender, that would work too. A full-size blender may make it a little weird with this, but food processor is probably going to be your best bet. Okay, so we will get the lid on. Sure we're good to go. Okay, loud noises. All right, it's been about 15 seconds here. We'll take a little look. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, it's starting to kind of turn into a meal, course meal kind of thing. So I'll probably pulse this just a bit longer and then we'll be ready to put that in our pie crust. There we go. Okay, so we have our food processed mixed nuts and dates from just a bit ago. So take a little spatula here, carefully dump it out. It's probably gonna be easier to pull that blade out. Set that aside, and then use one of these rubber spatulas to get it all out. And then from here, you can either use a rubber spatula like this, or you could just use your fingers. Fingers is probably gonna be a little better. And you're just gonna wanna press that out into an even layer. Okay, I've got the pie crust ready. One of the reasons that I really like using nuts for the pie crust is that it has a lot of fiber, as well as a lot of healthy fats and protein. So this, again, is just gonna add more of that nutritional value to this overall dessert. Once you're done pressing out this pie crust, get just a little pinch of salt and sprinkle that in here. I know that seems like a weird addition, but salt is a flavor enhancer. So that's just gonna bump up the flavor a little bit and make this even more tasty. Now we're gonna start working on the filling. So I'm using the same food processor. I have my 1 cup of soaked dates. I'm also gonna add my maple syrup. It calls for a cup. So again, there is a lot of sweetness in this dessert. If you do wanna dial it back a little bit, you could just go for 3/4 of a cup. Potentially even less. So again, you don't want to go totally crazy with this because there is still sugar. We have our coconut cream. Normally this is a bit more solidified. It kind of depends on the temperature of your house, how long it's been in the can, that sort of thing. So we're gonna get this mix. And then last thing is just a splash of vanilla extract. So now we're gonna get our lid on and blend. So the more broken up the dates are, the smoother the finished product is gonna be. So it's okay to maybe blend or food process a little longer than you might think on this part of it. Okay, so the maple syrup dates and coconut cream are pretty well mixed here. I'll be careful. So you can see the dates are in pretty small little pieces, so that's gonna make for a smoother texture. So I still have about 2 cups of avocado plus about that same, excuse me, about that same volume of cocoa powder. I'm not gonna add it all to this because my food processor is just not that large. So what I'm gonna do is pour about half of this into a bowl here. Perfect. And just have a kitchen towel or something. Catch that. So this is gonna, ultimately the final product is gonna work out just fine. So from here, we're only gonna add half of our avocado and half of our cocoa powder, blend that, move it to a larger bowl, and then we'll return with this, add the remaining avocado and cocoa powder, and combine it all. So you'll want to keep blending this until it's smooth like a pudding, or at least close to it. So we're just about on track. There's still a few kind of small chunks here that you can see. So I'll blend this just a smidge longer. Okay, I like the texture there. So we're gonna take our rubber spatula and get that into a bowl. This recipe can get a little messy, but it's typically pretty easy to clean up, and I think the finished product is totally worth it. All right, the first half of this has very messily been transferred to this bowl. So now we will finish up with the second half. So I'm adding, get this, adding that maple syrup, date, and coconut cream mixture from before. And then I'm gonna add the second half of my avocados. There we go. And then for the cocoa powder, a little tip here, I used a couple different cocoa powders here. It's a little bit of a mixture. You can see the difference in colors, a light and a dark. So the darker one is this Hershey Special Dark. This is actually the kind that they use to make Oreos, so it has kind of that unique Oreo flavor. It's just a little more alkaline than other cocoa powder, so it gives it that unique flavor. If you've dabbled in paleo desserts before, you may have some cacao powder in your pantry. I've used this for a bit and I've just had it sitting for a while. This has just a smidge more nutrition than cocoa powder, just a little less processed. So I did half and half for this recipe. It's not a requirement. You can use whatever kind of cocoa powder you prefer. But that's just a little note on what's going to contribute to that chocolate flavor. All right, we got everything in the mix. Now we're going to blend this up. Okay, we are done blending our pie filling. Given this a few stirs just to combine the two batches in case there are any differences. But now it's pretty straightforward. You're just gonna pour some of that filling into your pie crust. Just smoothing it out. And you will more than likely have some extra. I can or cannot say if that's by design. You're probably gonna want a little extra of this pie filling if I'm completely honest. It's really delicious and rich, and the texture is just awesome. So usually what I end up doing with this extra bit of filling is I'll take ice cube trays and just spoon out that extra filling into these, cover it and freeze it. That just makes kind of an easy snack for later on. You can just pop out 2 or 3 of those cubes, let it thaw out a bit, and that can be just kind of a quick chocolate fix if you're like me and sometimes crave chocolate. Okay, so now that we have this filling done, we are gonna cover this and freeze. All right, folks, we are all done with our chocolate avocado pie. This is off topic a little bit, but I had a friend who was watching one of these cooking videos and she was cooking along with it, and she texted me after and said, I mean, the recipe is great, but my kitchen is so much dirtier than yours is during your cooking demos. Don't worry, I have a lot of dirty dishes hiding in the sink and off camera. So you are not a bad cook if your kitchen is a little bit messy right now. Just trying to keep it presentable for the video. So we're all done. You're gonna wanna keep this frozen. It'll keep in the freezer for several weeks, but once you move it to the fridge, it's probably only gonna last 2 or 3 days. Some of the ingredients in here, they're fresh, so that means that they're going to go bad a little more quickly. So I usually keep this frozen, can get it covered once it's completely frozen. And then once if I know I'm gonna be serving it, I'll usually pull it just a few hours before that point so it has a chance to thaw out, but still keep its shape, which it will when it's cool. So like I said before, this is a much more nutritious dessert option. So tasty. Hopefully you'll have a little extra to snack on as well. But let us know what you think. I hope you give this a try. If you have interest in other cooking demos, nutrition, or wellness videos, please check out our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.